And welcome to week 2, season 2 of the A.E.F.L, guys. And man, was it kind of an exciting week. Not really. I mean, there wasn't too many close games. But nonetheless, let's get into this week's scores as Team Minivan took down me 134 to 95.3. Little change that I made. I was able to change things to fractions. It should increase scores. And for all you guys bitching about how you're not getting points for throwing 10 yards for every 25 points that you need to get a point, we switched it to fractions. I figured it out. This league's even better. You're welcome. Second game, Newton's Law takes down BFE Baltimore. Brandon, you still haven't changed your name? Still not going to acknowledge it. Nonetheless, you still lose 120.1 to 107.8. Find Black and Decker loses big to Grand Slam Breakfast Squad as Dustin takes down Trevor 144 to 88.5. Old Smuggler rebounds with the highest point total of the week with 152.2, taking down Jared, who only had 94.9. Will gets into the win column with his 145.5 victory over the Raging Boners, who had 116.4. Inglorious Bastards picks up their second win of the week with 135.9 over former Child Stars, who scored just 119.8. That leaves two undefeated teams in Yates and Ben. I believe both teams are in different divisions. Don't count me on that. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm almost certain. And it only leaves then two teams at 0-2 who are also in separate divisions in Brandon and Tyler. Getting into the games a little bit more, I had an awful week with Tom Brady yet again. Not to mention Amendola was out, Reggie Bush got hurt, and Ray Rice is hurt. I'm also concerned for my points next week because of those injuries. While Edwards, on the other hand, had big gains from his quarterback with RG3, Alfred Morris. Now he's got to start thinking about what does he do with Giovanni Bernard, who's on the bench, who put up big points last night with the Bengals. The Packers D got you 0 points, but then again, they kind of had a tough game. Defensively, I guess. Rodgers was on point. And then you throw in the fact that Fitzgerald has a hamstring injury. So some things to think about going into next week. Newton's Law picks up their second win of the week as they had big points from everyone. I believe like almost over half your roster had over 10 points. Not to mention, you got to, though, figure out what are you going to do with your running back situation. You just picked up Bell, who's poaching my points from Reggie Bush. I don't appreciate that. But nonetheless, as soon as you pick up Bell as a running back, you lose Vic Ballard to a season-ending injury. So something to think about on that end. Where Brandon, a little bit of trouble with your running back with Monty Ball. You got to figure out what you're going to do with him. But then your tight end situation, thank God for you, Rob Gronkowski's 50-50 on playing this week, or at least at the very end is going to be playing next week. Drew Brees also had a tough game. I don't know if it was weather conditions or what, but regardless, just tough game where he's usually putting up at least 30 points for you. Then you have Trevor and Dustin. Trevor, man, if Peyton Manning's out throwing 7 touchdowns, what the fuck are you going to do this year? I mean, yeah, Roddy White on the bench due to an injury. Not to mention, might want to start looking for a new defense. Vernon Davis didn't put up very many points due to the Seattle defense. And then you throw in, D'Angelo Williams as your running back. Dude, you better hope to God that Peyton Manning throws 7 touchdowns every week. But nonetheless, Dustin rebounds for his first win of the year, putting up this, I believe this third highest score total with 144. As he had big points from mainly just like the quarterback and wide receivers, but then he has Lacey hurt, and then you got to figure out what you're going to do with your wide receivers. I think you had a lot of wide receivers scoring a bunch of points. You even had 2 wide receivers on your bench who put up quite a few points. Maybe start thinking about a trade to replace Lacey, who not only got injured but also had James Starks come in and rush for 144 yards or some shit like that. Then you have Tanner, who gets the big win, in large part from Victor going from 171 points to 90 points. I don't know what happened with Adrian Peterson and Maurice Jones-Drew, but Jones-Drew has been nothing but a disappointment this year. While Tanner, on the other hand, got big points from everyone. Stafford and Johnson finally connected for a few touchdowns. I think your only downfall, though, is Stephen Ridley, as you drafted him pretty high up in one of the early rounds and has yet to done shit for you. Lucky for you, Monte Ball on Brandon's team has just sucked dick all year. and you just happen to have no Sean Marino and every other fucking Denver's player on your roster, so I think you'll be just fine. Helmet-to-helmet contact picks up the big win over Raging Boners. Will, like I said last week, man, you got to start deciding what are you going to do with your quarterback situation. Yeah, Michael Vick on the bench again with 33 points, outscoring your starter, Matt Ryan. One of those things I've got to give. I'm sure someone could use a quarterback putting up over 20 points a week, especially Mike Vick, who's always injury prone, where Matt Ryan's a little bit more consistent week to week. I know also you have Steven Jackson, who left the game early this week and is also already declared out for next week. That's something to watch heading into next week's game. And then Boner, dude, just a tough week all around with Frank Gore putting up low points and then Russell Wilson not doing much against that San Francisco defense. More or less, just, man, you've had tough matchups with all your players these first 2 weeks, so you haven't had a chance to put up as many points as you should be, but hopefully things will change going into next week. And then Ben, once again, dude, I'm going to say it again, your roster is scary good. You score 135 points. I mean, it's 4th best in the league. So, I mean, you're always in the top half of the points. You're 2-0. Things are looking good. You did, though, have low points from your tight end and your defense, where your other players were able to make up for it, where Barr was a little bit more consistent than you from up to down within the roster, but luckily your other players put up enough points to get you the win there. Now, speaking of Ben, thanks to Ben, we now have a new segment, and I'm going to jump right into that with this week's Trevor Frymeyer's Cocksucker of the Week.
Which, by the way, can I have the rest for that?
It's still looking back.
No, wait.
He definitely wants to get too hot.
You cocksucker!
And this week's Cocksucker of the Week goes to Brandon for 2 reasons. 1, change your goddamn name, I'm tired of looking at it. And 2, I just believe you've had a tough 2 weeks regardless, because you forgot to take out Gronk out of your starting lineup last week, and then this week you put in Kellen Winslow, and yet your backup tight end actually ends up scoring more points than Winslow. Then Breeze has an off game, and then Monte Balls just turned out to be a flop of a pick. I mean, but we're all with you in the fact that I think most of us thought Monte Balls was going to be getting most of the carries, and then Noshawn Marino is having a pretty decent, solid year this year, and not to mention Tanner just already happens to have him on his bench, so you can't even pick him up on the waiver wire. So this week's Cocksucker of the Week goes to Ultimus, because change your fucking name. Let's just get it out there. Let's change it. Now, before we get into next week's matchups, we just have a little message from one of the top teams of the year so far, Justin Yates.
Thank you, Jace, for that wonderful introduction. I guess I'm here to talk about my 2-0 start, and well, fellas, to be completely honest, it's been pretty much luck so far. First week, Victor Cruz and AJ Green just went crazy, put up mid-30 points, I think, both of them. Last week, against Brandon, most of my guys hit mid-teens, which is a decent score. I think I'm one of 2 teams right now that's 2-0. The other one, I believe, is Ben. There's 1 or 2 teams at 0-2. But everyone's looking pretty good so far. Matchups have been pretty even across the board. There's a ton of teams at 1-1, and it's going to be an interesting season. I'd like to give a shout out to Fichter for the highest score so far this season, but I'm sure that'll get shattered soon. I think he went from highest score to lowest score. I'm sure Cass already mentioned that in his 8-minute video, but in case he hasn't, there you go. But once again, Kraft, thanks for having me. I did request a face-to-face interview with Jason. He denied me that, so maybe when I'm 3-0 next week, he'll grant me the wish of a face-to-face interview. Alright, guys. Have a good night. Later.
Alright, fellas, now that we're all done listening to that 2-0 bullshit, let's get into next week's games as I play the Inglorious Bastards. You might as well already mark me up for the loss, as I do not feel confident whatsoever going into this week. Team Minivan faces the Raging Boners as Boner looks to get his first win of the year. I mean, at some point he's got to get things up and going, no pun intended. But Grand Slam Breakfast Squad plays helmet-to-helmet contact. Regardless of what the outcome is, someone's getting breakfast. Look in the front, poker in the back takes on Newton Law as Yates there looks to go 3-0, which after Fichter's follow-up performance from week 1, very possible. Former Trial Stars plays Ultimus. Ultimus also looks to get his first win of the year versus one of the tougher teams in the league, as Barr finished also in the top half of the league last year. And then Find a Black and Decker versus Old Smuggler, as both those teams look to, at least one of them anyways, move to 2-1 while the other gets on the other side of 500. Fellas, another thing to think about is let's get together for a game on Sunday, whether it's this week or next. I really don't give a shit, but let's meet at Champions like we did that one time last week, have a few beers, grab some food, and watch some football. But until then, fellas, I'll see you later. Fuck you.